What's up everyone, MK Tom Brady here, and in this video I want to talk about Sub-Zero and Khaos Reigns. Now originally I saw the patch notes, I saw Sub-Zero got no changes, I was not going to get this expansion. But I figured one of the newer characters might appeal to me, one, and two, if nothing else, I can make a detailed video about Sub-Zero and how he is in this version of the game with some of the cameo changes. There are two things I need to address first before well, three things really, before I get into this. So please bear with me, guys, because I promise this is not boring. The first thing is that it is said about Sub-Zero, in my silence over the last 3 months, I've been on Twitter, and it is constantly said that this character is the most downplayed character, an Omega character, who the only reason why the true potential is not coming out is while we have good Sub-Zero players, the right players aren't playing him and showing his true potential. Meaning that if we see some of the players that we see in top 8 all the time at the biggest majors in the world, if they were playing Sub-Zero, we would see the true potential. But you never ask yourself why they don't play Sub-Zero. It's because he doesn't have legitimate bullshit. And that's what I mean. Like when people talk about Homelander's unreactable command grab or going into a mid, he doesn't have legitimate, always have to be proactive at all times or you're going to die. Or anything that you know is coming, but you just kind of have to hold it because of the situation you're in. He doesn't have anything like that. His stuff is easily reactable, heavily punishable, and his risk reward is no reward for maximum risk, with something that is also gimmicky anyway. So that's why they don't play him. He doesn't have legit, honest BS, I guess, to put those two words next to each other, kind of an oxymoron there. Sub-Zero, also what is said is that Chameleon is his best cameo. This is also false. Now I know this is going to offend some people here, but your average Combat League, not player, Elder God player, is a moron when it comes to fighting games. The Mortal Kombat players, on average, are not cut from the same cloth they once were when you had games that had complete bullshit in it, like Injustice or MK9 or MKX. Nowadays, they just want to quit the game. They wanted to quit Injustice because Injustice zoning. They thought Peacemaker zoning was broken. They called him Broke Maker, Zone Maker. Players today are not cut from the same cloth as even players that play other fighting games. They don't necessarily lab anything. They just want to do what they want to do, and if they get caught by stuff wrongly, they will say the character is broken, downplayed, and the player doing these things is actually carried. Sub-Zero has been getting away with Chameleon gimmicks since the beginning of time, and that's because nobody truly labs against stuff. Johnny Cage player will know down one clone is coming. Even back when they were playing Johnny Goro, it's an easy reaction punish. You don't even have to know clone is coming out, and you just punish it right there. And yet they'll still knee as soon as you down one and get frozen by a clone and then blame the character. Instead of you can't do that in this matchup. Likewise, people will fight Johnny Cage, try to steal their turn back. They know you can't steal their turn back against the 9-frame mid, get hit by his knee, and then call Johnny Cage broken. Players just want to play a universal style that works against most characters, and if there's a situation here or there where you can't do it, they will never say, I don't lab. They'll just say, why can this character do this? The character is broken, you're carried, the character's downplayed, etc. Just the average Mortal Kombat player, the power level is so low in this game, it chased away 99% of the good players, and they all moved on to other games. That's just kind of what happened. So you've got a handful of players who are really good, but they're not going to play Sub-Zero because he doesn't have any BS. So like Chameleon stuff, for example, I believe you could always do this because I really can't find anything in recent patch notes that say this has changed. When Sub-Zero does stuff like this, right? Now, it's always like, oh, you have to watch out if he's in Katana. Watch out, you got to be proactive. You got to know this is going to happen so that you can do something like this. This is what people always say. This is not true. You can literally just like stand jab, if you time it right, and full combo punish. And even if I have other clips here with other cameos here as well, even if you do it down to the frame so that you turn around, once again, pay attention. Even if the Sub-Zero player does it down to the frame so that you turn around, he's on the other side of you, you can still jab punish every single time. So whether he does this or just regular slide, it's the same punish every single time. There's no mind game there. There's no, is he katana, is he not? There's, I have to watch where he is. No, you don't. That is just because nobody considers this character as a threat, so nobody labs against it. And even allowing him to get away with BS, most people beat him anyway. That just kind of like shows you a few things. Also, I get it, Melina, the 50-50. However, notice, once again, breaker is on, right? So breaker is automatically on. You cannot break. When Melina is punished, you cannot break. So most characters are not doing Sub-Zero's minuscule damage. You are going to get hit. Like a truck hits you in most cases here. And you can't even break her. The damage is guaranteed. And then I got it back 2 or back 3 into Jade. I understand that. But back 2 or back 3 is not a real 50-50. It works because 1, you're online, and 2, you're playing against idiots who just don't think about anything. If you go offline at the highest possible level, the back 2, back 3 gimmicks, it's not real. Slide into a katana, if people actually lab it, it's not real. These are things that are not real, solid things. Just because it works on the average Mortal Kombat player, and it'll get you out of pools, doesn't matter, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up out at 33rd place and in tournament. Now listen, I know many of you are going to say, Tom, what do you know about Sub-Zero? What do you know about Mortal Kombat? When was the last time you did anything? True. However, when was the last time I did anything is a lot more recent than most of you or all of you watching this video, because the last time you did anything was never. So I'm probably the most accomplished tournament Sub-Zero player in the history of Mortal Kombat. I am by a mile as far as the tournament players go throughout all the Mortal Kombat games. And while it has been since MKX that I was actually a legit top tier player, I've adapted to many versions of Sub-Zero over the years, so I understand how he works, and I know how to adapt to Sub-Zero. Even in MK11, a game that I would consider myself garbage in, I did go to one regional. It was only 90 players, but I got top 8 in that. It's the only time I've actually competed. And, by the way, if you want to laugh at a 90-man tournament, because you're playing MK1, in which if a tournament hits 60, it's a miracle. So let's not forget about that. Now, on to a few things that make no sense to me with Sub-Zero. You have Cyrax. Cyrax's sticky bomb is so fast, it trades with projectiles frequently. You can combo into it just off anything pretty much, whether they're in a juggled state, whether they're in a grounded state. So it combos into stuff. It's so fast that you can also trade with it frequently. Like, all these things don't make any sense. Like, so even in like a zoning war, you'll trade with it, and because she has a teleport, it's very easy for her to get right next to you and do a combo. So this is 10 times faster than an ice ball. Well, it's not. It's actually twice as fast, pretty much. So it's just mind-blowing to me that this sticky bomb here, which does a full combo, is so much faster. And there's another trade. And not only that, it leads to certain things, such as you can armor break off of it. So it leads to these types of combos in which you get armor break situations. Here we go. What she's going to try to armor out. This is the fastest armor move in the game, so can't even armor out of it. It also has situation where it leads to like unblockables. This is an unblockable with no cameo involved. So this is just Cyrax on her own. No cameo needed for this. And here we go. Bomb. Grab. This is a 50% combo with no cameo. And with cameo, I think people were doing 70 with combos using cameos. So just by herself, she's got stuff. Then you got this slow ice ball here. So just their philosophy makes no sense. They penalize Sub-Zero in some areas, but reward Cyrax in other areas. So, and I understand that's 10 minutes of nonsense before we get to the point, but yeah. So Cyrax, Cyrax. So Sub-Zero's best cameo is, I believe, Kung Lao. Now, because they gave him this orbiting hat here. What this does is gives Sub-Zero like legit damage in punish situations. So for example, if he's going to punish you now, this gives him back 2, which is very big. So he's got legit meterless damage now in situations where normally he would have to spend a bar, things of that nature. He doesn't need to anymore. But, you know, obviously you can't do... He's pushed too far back on most strings here. So you can only, in open space, do like a single hit and get it. I don't even know if this works. It does. So even stand 4. So this is 12 frames. So things like this are now possible. So you're going to get well over 50%. So Sub-Zero is a better punisher now because of this, meterlessly. Also, you can do things off like dive kick now, where normally you couldn't do. I guess you just got to jab, unless you're close. So if you're like really close, then you can stand 3 into it. But I know you can always jab into it. Here we go. So now dive kick combos do actual damage now. There are situations where you can still stand 3 into it. This is a 35% dive kick combo, meterless. Just these things were just never possible before. So this is very, very good. You get your normal Kung Lao shenanigans, of course, but now you have meterless combos. In the corner, it's the same thing. Corners, now you've got access to pretty good meterless combo damage. So like now you can do things like this. We'll just keep it simple. This is 40% meterless in the corner. So you've got good meterless corner damage without having to use clone or things like that for scaling purposes, which is very, very good. It comes back reasonably quick. Like you'll have half a bar back before the combo is over. So it's not an obnoxiously long cooldown. The thing about Sub-Zero, when we say things like he needs a cameo, obviously everybody needs a cameo in some way in this game to compete. What we mean is that Sub-Zero needs a cameo that has a quick cooldown because he's so garbage that a cameo has got to be available at all times for him to be able to do anything even basic. So because of this, he needs a quick cooling cooldown, which means cameo, which means his options are very limited. And probably the most solid of these is Kung Lao now that he has this orbiting hat. Also, it's +9 on block, meaning if you do this, they're not crouch blocking, which they probably will be. You can jail them into a standing jab, or even at +9, your mid is 15 frames, which means it's going to come out in 6 frames. The fastest down one in the game is 7. So even if, let's go ahead and see if I can time this right. Oh, timed it wrong. Even if they try to down 1 you here, if you time this right, still messed it up. I know you get it though. Oh, that was stand 2. This is a 1 frame window, so cross block. There we go. So if you do it, it's a 1 frame window. So it's something that's going to be difficult. But in theory, if you have the execution and you practice it, you can still forward 1 and beat out everything they have. So it's still possible. I know it's 1 frame and I know it's online, but my point is if you actually practiced it, you would get this 100% of the time. People in Mortal Kombat have done this before with characters like Cabal and MK9, where they have like 1 or 2 frames to do something. So I've seen it done by players consistently in the past, which means I know if you practice this, if I practice this, this is something you can consistently get. Worst case scenario, you at bare minimum could always at least down 1, is my point here. At bare minimum, you could still always down 1. And in certain cases where like, I'll show you in the corner. If you maybe try to catch them standing, in certain instances, you can still use Orbiting Hat to jail them into 1-2. So let's go ahead and show a few things here in the corner with Sub-Zero. So Orbiting Hat also gives you, and again, this is gimmicky. So, you know, I'm not trying to say that this is like good or anything like that. But this is gimmicky. But however, it just is possible. So it will combo off the low in the corner. Open space, I think the low pushes too far back, which it does. But it will combo here. So you're able to back 3 into it. Unfortunately, it doesn't combo off of back 2. However, if they block it, they have to block because it's an overhead, right? So they're blocking it standing, which will then allow you to jail them into 1-2. They can't even go in a crouch. So at least I think so. I don't think they can get in a crouch in time to do that. So might as well go ahead and test it now. Let's see. No, they can block it in a crouch. So no, it's not good. But my point is you can do it off of a low. So being able to do it off his back 3 is still, I guess, okay, because, you know, there are some people who swear that back 3, back 2 is a mix-up. And so he's still got a gimmick situation there. You can also just kind of hold it, you know, the button for it to orbit differently around you. Like it'll orbit around you like this quickly, or it'll orbit at an angle like this. So you can choose how you want it to orbit you. But it's just another option that he has. You see most characters, like you have a character like Quan Chi, for example, you know, your only projectile will be things like this. This is one of the only things that he can't punish you for from range. And up close, pretty much every character murders you because you don't have anything safe. This allows, instead, like, to get some type of a situation, this will now allow you to gain a strike throw situation in a lot of characters, especially a character like Quan Chi, where you can't clone, so you're just stuck. You're always giving up your turn, and anything you try to do to keep your turn or to try something, you're dead for it. Now, at least you can do this, and you have a legit strike throw mix-up, a legit something to keep something going where you don't have to clone, you don't have to surrender your turn, and you're not going to die for trying to not be dead yourself or giving your turn back, because a lot of times Sub-Zero is just going to die for that. So you don't have to do like, all these type of gimmicks like forward 1, backdash, you know, forward 1, and get kneed in the face by Johnny Cage, etc. This gives Sub-Zero all his normal shenanigans that he's had. So with Kung Lao, you gain armor break situations, you gain the ability to remove wake-up attacks, all the things he always had. You gain of pseudo-vortex situation in corners, but what you also gain is now orbiting hat stuff. And this is the closest thing to solidarity that he has in the game, where it's not a gimmick. You either, like, you get them on the ground, and you either, you know, your vortex situation either gets right or wrong, and you now have an option up close to where you're not going to die anymore. The reality with Sub-Zero is, like I said, Sub-Zero is just in a garbage state. There's no good way to say it. He is garbage. And people mistake their own flaws as players for Sub-Zero's strengths as a character. And the reality is he just doesn't have anything solid. Now, I'm not even saying they should buff the clone. Whenever I say Sub-Zero needs something, someone always says, oh, you want the clone buff. I don't necessarily want the clone buff, but I do think it's dumb that he has 4 versions of a clone. He has this clone, then he has the 1-bar single clone, then he has the 3-bar 1-bar clone, then he has the 3-clone 1-bar clone, and then the 2-bar 3 clones. So he's got 4 versions. 1, 2, 3, 4, and none of them do anything different. This is just stupid. So they got to do something. You don't have 4 versions of a move that do nothing. And then Ice Ball is just too slow, especially EX Ice Ball is too slow. And the slide should probably go into crouch much sooner so we can crouching slide again. These little subtle changes don't break him. People say things like, oh, but other characters like Cyrax don't have moves like this. It looks like they gave Sub-Zero like a cornucopia of moves like dive kick and this, and they didn't want these moves to be super good, but slightly good on their own, so that none of them are really powerful, but when you combine all those moves together, you have a powerful overall moveset. It just didn't work out that way. These moves just are not strong enough, even put together, to really form a solid strategy. So Sub-Zero's kind of in limbo right now. So they either need to really weaken some of these moves that are already weak, and then Omega strengthen some of his other moves to kind of balance him out. And that's what I think they need to do. But maybe I'll come up with some more stuff with him. Who knows? This is just kind of the rundown on Sub-Zero and Khaos Reigns for right now. They did nerf some of the other characters as well, like Tanya. They buffed her in other ways, but I feel like Sub-Zero might fare a little better in that match now. The Orbiting Head, I believe, helps him against characters like Quan Chi, things like that. So we'll just have to see what happens with him. But for right now, this is kind of where I am with him. And, you know, maybe I might upload some match videos. The reason why I don't upload match videos is you guys don't like them. I mean, that's why I just stopped doing it. People don't watch them. So I'm like, okay, no one watches for my match videos. So I'll just upload everything else. That's the main reason why. So maybe I might change that around going forward. Who knows? But, you know, if I come up with some more tech, you guys will be the first to know about it. Thanks for watching, everyone.